necessary to create a perimeter around the scene itself. They themselves were creating the kind of dysfunction and chaos that they claimed to be trying to help with. And so the message that we delivered very clearly was to make them leave. Now, beyond leaving the scene, they should also leave our city and our state. We do work, our chief does work, our sheriff does work every single day to keep people safe in our city and in our state. And
wow, I mean, this saying ICE federal agents should leave his city, man, there was some guys in the 50s and 60s in the South used to talk like that. Trying to use this to equate to that, it's constantly how these Democrat sanctuary cities roll in general. It's this is going to be a middle-class white woman, but it's going to be the next BLM. It already would be if she'd been black, but let's hear them out. Thanks for joining us today, Backlash.
Does the state rather have any legal recourse to bring charges against this ICE agent, given that this person is a federal agent, if the feds don't?
so, obviously, and I have to always lead with this caveat because it is true, an investigation still does need to be conducted. I had my perception of what took place based on the vehicle and the vehicle's positioning. It does not appear that the individual is trying to ram anybody. Now, the question was, if it is in fact found to be an unjustified shooting, who issues the charge, who prosecutes, how does justice take place? I don't know the answer in full to that. This is obviously information that we're still working out. Chief, do you have any additional information, or Commissioner?
The only thing I would add to the mayor's statement is that the crime scene was held by the Minneapolis Police Department, and the investigation is now being led jointly by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well as the Minnesota Bureau of
The chief here has been a lot more reasonable, state trooper guy here, but the mayor shouldn't be saying, I don't think that the officer's life was in danger. He doesn't know that off the cuff of one video. This will be the local chief of police. Chief of police. Let's hear them out.
Are involved. Most certainly the BCA is very well capable of working with our federal partners in doing so. That is something that is needed for our communities, and so that's something that I can tell you that there's already been conversations from the U.S. Attorney's Office to the BCA that have already taken place today. How that's going to roll out, we don't know yet, but we are making sure that there is some kind of local entity, namely the BCA, that has a part in this investigation for the purposes of transparency and expedient transparency as to what happened today.
One more. If that's it.
Thank
you, everybody.
Final piece, again, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to the media for being here and disseminating this very important information around this tragic incident. To reiterate a final message to our community members, I understand the anger. Let's unite around hope and love and peace and getting justice. That's what we need to be doing right now. I appreciate the service from everybody up here as well as the 435,000 people that call Minneapolis home. Thank you.
There you have it. Mayor Frey along with...
Yes, indeed, there you do have it. What we'll jump over to just now is there's a Portland ICE protest going on, but they're calling it a vigil for the lady killed by... And bear in mind, this is in Portland, not in Minnesota, even Minneapolis. They're holding a vigil. They were always going to hold something in Portland, any chance to get to be anti-federal government. That's what they'll do in general. I think if you offered them a country of their own tomorrow, they would take it.
We cannot look to those in power to save us. It's very clear at this point that that's not going to happen. We have to hold each other close. We have to wrap our arms around each other, take to the streets, and say, if they come after you, I'm going to be out there. If they come after me, I hope that you all will do the same. All moment of silence for her, please. Thank you. Renee Nicole Good. She was a
Of course, she has a nose ring. I'm just saying, of course.
She was a mother, and she leaves behind a 6-year-old. Shame. The child is now an orphan since the child lost his dad back in 2023. Renee Nicole Good lived in Minneapolis, St. Paul. She had been there and she was a local resident. She was only trying to protect herself and her neighbors. She did not deserve this end for her life, and we are here to demand more for her. Today we are here to demand for the ICE agent to get arrested immediately.
Of course you are. Yes, of course you are.
Arrested immediately and charged with murder. And here for our local agents, we request for them to revoke the ICE permit and to remove the ICE agents here from Portland. We want ICE out of Portland! So let's say her name loud and clear. We are here remembering today Renee Nicole
we'll nip back into that shortly while they all throw a tantrum, like they always do in Portland. And I'm not trying to play down the situation. I'm just saying that's Portland. They might have done that tonight
Illegal
over
aliens?
anything. Let's check out Christine Ohm, who's actually got skin in the game here, and see what she's saying about the situation.
Against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Fry's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Fry refuse to protect Minnesotans and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we are here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country and because we're no longer going to allow illegal...
I need to give her some backup here on that she had to point out, we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. They're Minnesotans as well, some of the ICE agents, you know, like this way the media will paint it as an ICE are showing up in Minnesota. That's not quite right, is it?
Country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs. This city has burned before, and your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Secretary, no, Mayor Fry called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Secretary, can you expand too on the agent's injuries? The president said that he's lucky to be alive.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. He has been released, but he's going to spend some time with his family.
Can you clarify whether he was hit before or after the gunshot was fired?
I can't, but the FBI will continue the investigation and release more facts when it's appropriate.
Secretary, no, has the agent been relieved of his duty, or can you give us any other?
No, we're following the standard protocol procedures we do in situations like this. When there's an officer-involved shooting, we make sure that we get the facts and that we are getting the statements from everybody involved and make sure that investigators are handling the decisions.
Secretary, have ICE operations paused because of what happened today?
No, we're still out on the streets doing our work to get dangerous criminals off of the streets of Minneapolis.
Can you give us any insight into your conversation with the governor?
You know, Tim and I have known each other for years. We served in Congress together. We both ran for governor the same year and have served as governor at the same times. So we were colleagues, and we discussed what happened here today. We have two very different viewpoints of it. I talked specifically about the fact that we have laws. They need to be enforced. He knows that I believe sanctuary policies have protected criminals and placed a priority of them over the citizens that live here, and he knows we'll continue to do our work, and I encouraged him to work with us. We've never had a cooperative arrangement with law enforcement here. Whenever we've done investigations, whenever we've done police work, when we've been doing what we can to bring bring people to justice for the crimes that they commit, we haven't had the cooperation of the state of Minnesota or the city police here under the mayor's direction. If you talk to any of these federal law enforcement officers, they'll say that when they call for backup in a situation, that it's hit and miss. They were grateful today that the police chief and local law enforcement showed up at the scene and helped secure it to make sure that nobody was harmed and that the FBI could do their work. But I would encourage them to work with us, that we could form a partnership that would make sure that individuals have the opportunity to have a safe Minneapolis.
Secretary,
Over here.
do you stand behind the use of force, and will any of those use of force guidelines be altered or changed in the future?
You know, it's clearly established law that a vehicle driven by a person and used to harm someone is a deadly weapon. Deadly force is perfectly lawful when a threat is faced by a weapon. So I do believe that this officer used his training in this situation, and we'll let the FBI continue the investigation to get it resolved.
So just to be clear, did the shooting happen before or after the vehicle hit the officer?
I know you keep asking that, but that doesn't mean that the FBI is going to give you an answer today. There will be an investigation. We want to make sure that it's factual. What I would ask is that as we go forward from here today, that we all remember that our job is to have peaceful discussions. I'd encourage our local law enforcement and state law enforcement to work with us. We are going to continue to operate here in Minneapolis and in the state of Minnesota to make sure we're going after dangerous criminals. One of the key focuses that we've had here is a focus on individuals who are sexual predators and are involved in child exploitation. When I was just here yesterday, we arrested individuals who were charged with criminal assault and sexual assault and people that exploited children. Why would you want to keep them on your streets? President Trump has promised to go after the worst of the worst, and that's exactly what we're doing in Minneapolis. By not working with us, Governor Walz and Mayor Fry are putting those criminals and prioritizing them over our children and our grandchildren.
Governor Walz said that he has not been given any heads up when there is.
And that's simply not true. He said that to me on the phone, too, so I'll get him the documentation that he needs so that he knows that we would love to coordinate with him. He doesn't give us access to any information on criminals, let us know who he's detained, doesn't honor our detainers, and has individuals and criminals in his jurisdiction that he won't turn over us today, too. Yes.
Hearing that the officer involved today was once before raped by a vehicle. Can you explain the difference between that instance and today? Was a firearm discharged then? If not, what was the difference?
I won't speak to that case right now, but we can get you the details and the information on that. But the facts of the matter is he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today.
Given the threat of vehicle encounters, are you going to change the way police?
You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons.
Are you going to change the
This domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety. And Americans deserve better. That hasn't been a part of the discussion. I know Governor Walz mentioned some of that earlier in his press conference, but we've got law enforcement officers here that will continue to work, and we're hopeful that the public recognizes that the work that we do every day makes America safe again. With that,
into the operation that was happening at 3 Portland?
we had law enforcement officers that were out there doing an enforcement action, and a vehicle got stuck in the snow, and so they had called other people to come and help them get that vehicle out. Those officers were trying to free the vehicle when the harassment started, when the protesters were out there impeding their vehicles and preventing them from leaving the scene.
Was it a particular home or business in that intersection?
I won't speak to that.
Were they on a crime that person maybe committed that you were going after? You mentioned sexual predators. Well, body camera footage.
I will let the FBI decide.
Were they on target today when they were in that neighborhood?
They were returning back to headquarters, I believe, to start a new operation, had just completed one. Well, thank you. What's that? Supply was one of the vehicles that ICE officers were using. But remember, when we operate in a task force model. So we have other federal agencies that work with us, and we're very grateful for that. We have CBP officers, the FBI, DEA, ATF, all of those all work with us every day in a task force model, and we appreciate it. We'd love to have the state police, and we'd also love to have the Minneapolis police chief and his team be alongside of us while we're out there doing those enforcement operations. With that, we'll get you more information as it is revealed, but thank you and everybody. Let's work together to make sure that we can continue to help the city be safer, get more criminals off the streets, and ensure that our public has the opportunity to pursue the American dream in a city they can be proud of. Thank you.
And there you
And he's about to say, and there you have it. Okay, what we need to do is we're going to have to look at the actual... Again, this is back in Portland where they're doing... they're calling it a vigil for the victim. Victim, perpetrator, one man's victim and all that. But we are going to have to look at the actual video of what happened, because we are talking about it. And I've looked at it a couple of times, but not thoroughly yet. So let's have a look and see what we think of this.
Okay, they're approaching.
Yeah,
okay.
This is ICE agents just pulling up here. The vehicle is
Lower
right there.
And it happened so fast that it's hard to see what takes place in this particular video, but that is the front angle, and then we have also obtained some video from behind where it happens, but that is the vehicle that belongs to the woman who was killed today. And as Randy said, there were 3 agents in particular surrounding the car. It's unclear why she was parked at an angle in the street or what was happening in the street at that time. We do know that as they approached her vehicle, one agent told her to get out of the car, and then we see the car start to move, and then we hear the shots.
So that video you just saw is the one that President Trump also viewed this afternoon as well. And post watching that video, the president did put out a statement. I believe we have that for you. And it reads like this: I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense. We will say from our observations, the officer does not appear to have been...
Eli, how you doing? Oi, oi, Eli says, Happy New Year, brother. Hope you're well. Is this recent? I hope you're well too, Eli. Yes, this was tonight, yesterday afternoon, depending on where you are. I mean, I always get especially confused when I'm trying to convert it into your time. In the afternoon in Minnesota. But it's just happened. It's ongoing. Breaking news, if you like. Sorry, I've got the kettle on in the background. You've got to brew that coffee. Let's get this going. Look, this is it's a rough one. They've not got ideal footage. This station's out of Minneapolis. This is KR11. Let's have a look at it from what they have, and we'll also look at NBC's footage of it here. This is the car, right? So maybe we should check this out first. She's blocked the road. Now this has been going on in Minneapolis, where people have decided, have taken it upon themselves to say they can block traffic for ICE, and that's a legitimate thing to do. It's not. You're literally stopping law enforcement officers from doing their job. Were they justified in killing this lady? You know, I'm still debating it in my head. She is throwing a tantrum here at ICE agents being here. And something that nobody's considering, some of the ICE agents are Minnesotans as well, and they're all Americans, by the way, official, legit Americans. There's a lot of fallout from this. And there's different opinions, so I'm just opening up the different opinions, etc. We'll get to the Care 11. I'm guessing that's going to be a bit skewed because it's in Minnesota. But let's check this one out, right? Let's see what actually happened in viewer discretion, honestly, because you're not going to see the graphicness of it because she's in a car, but someone is killed in this interaction.
Emily Heller, who watched this happen in Minneapolis. She's joining us now on the phone. Emily, it's Hallie. Can you hear us okay?
So that's essentially it, and this one wasn't the best one for audio because there is audio of this, but that one is got NBC. They're wall to wall showing it because it suits their politics. NBC, the Trump hating politics of it. She's then crashed into this car, the white car sitting over here, into the back of that. As she's lost control. She's been shot. This is the officer that's fired the shots, and he's felt that his life was in danger. You see the other officers approach, and they're going to remove her from the car because she's been blocking the road for more time than we're seeing on the screen.
Where you were.
She goes towards the officer that's in front of her. Now, she's deciding she's making that getaway in that direction. Now, the reality is how law enforcement officers are trained is that a car is a weapon. It's coming towards you. That is a deadly weapon. And it is. What's she going to do there? She's going to hit him with a car. That's essentially it. Does that warrant him using deadly force, shooting her through the window the way he does? That's debatable. But she's absolutely, at minimum, going to injure this man. Another human being just attempting to perform the duties of their office, a serious role. It's out the way. Can he make a decision, watching it 10 times, that he's not in a life-threatening situation? Probably. In a split-second situation, can he make a determination that his life isn't in danger? Or other people's lives, the public's lives aren't in danger? Can he make those decisions in that split second? Probably not. No, probably not. He's a human. Adrenaline, all of those things. And that's yet another reason why, outside of the law, you've got to consider that the officers have got something to do here. They've got things to concentrate on. Maybe you shouldn't be in the middle of that. Eli's saying, yeah, mate, I'm okay working, so bloody busy. I think he means I'm 11 hours ahead of the UK time. Yeah, I get you. Tell me about it. I know what it's like to be working, try and juggle everything. It's not ideal. And it's just insane. Apparently the lady that's passed away, it's a real tragedy, did have a kid, a young boy, I think 6 years old from what I've heard. I can't verify that. They were saying that at this Portland protest where they're, usually making everything about themselves. They're pretending it's about her, but it's really about Portland's need to feel important, which is the reality of it. Let's watch what they're saying actually in Minnesota. Eli says, it's damn good to hear you again. This is pretty messed up, Jeepers. Yes, it's good to see you again, Eli. I was thinking about you when you were replying to comments, and I'm thinking, man, it'd be good to be on a live with Eli. But you're 11 hours ahead of the UK, and then I factor in when I stream and where I am and all of that. It's I get you. The timelines are lining up a bit better. This is a tragedy all round, but that lady has got no business, and rest in peace to her, but she's got no business being where she is then. When the federal government are doing things that she agrees with, she's not parking her car in the way and decrying federal authority. When, for example, they're forcing absolutely everyone to be jagged in the arm. Jags I took in the arm, by the way. I accepted it at the time. But federal mandates are federal mandates, and you have a country or you don't. It's the United States of America, or it isn't. So she can't pick and choose. There was a load of people in the 50s and 60s in the southern states that wanted to pick and choose which federal laws they followed. And National Guard, federal agents had to go in there. This is no different. This is federal law, and it's law to protect her. It's okay for people that live a middle-class life to not understand the reality of what's happening to their lives, and they've bought in way too much. I put the blame of this situation at the media's door. Even the way they painted the situation of a load of ICE agents going into Minnesota. ICE invades Minnesota. Well, no, they don't, because some of them are already based there. Some of them are from there, and they're coming to enforce federal law by removing people that are there illegally. Something that the majority of Americans voted for, by the way, and something that's been law long before Trump, long before Biden, long before Obama, Bush 2nd, Clinton, Bush 1, Reagan, Carter, all of the presidents, and I just put them in order going back. It's federal law. You want to change federal law? Do that. Do that in Congress. Get it changed. Running for an election telling people you're going to change federal law. See how many votes you get. Let's hear this out. That's enough ranting from me. Eli says, I can see that the stormtroopers will be out in force tonight. The Portland, Timu stormtroopers will absolutely be out in force tonight. Eli, they're already ready. Now that feed's ended over there now because their vigil's ended. How sad. But they'll now go to the ICE building and protest. That's not live anymore. That's a rerun. But they will go now and protest at the ICE building. That is an absolute certainty. But we'll get to that. I promise you. Let's see this.
Swearing in it. So the only thing that you will hear are the gunshots. We just want to warn our viewers about what they're...
For God's sake. This is what's wrong with modern society. What she's just said there is... So we're going to see the video now again. But in this scenario, they blocked out the things people are saying in it, she says, because they're swearing. So the only thing you will hear is the gunshots. So it's okay to hear gunshots and someone being killed, but God forbid that any of us hear a swear word. What a world we live in. That is just pure insanity, but let's hear it. Let's do this. Jesus. If this lot had their way, they'd send federal agents in to take care of people that are swearing.
About to see. We'll play the video now.
Did we kill audio? Good. That's on purpose.
Because there's all kinds of swearing.
Right. All right, sound down. There we go.
All right.
And I can just talk a little bit about what you hear.
Right, and you can hear her producers in the background debating. One of them saying, do you know the volume's not on? So one of them wasn't paying attention during the broadcast, and the other one's going, no, that's on purpose, because there's all kinds of swearing. But what it takes away is context of the police saying, move your car, of her friends or other protesters, there's about 3 of them, and the sidelines saying things like, calling the police outrageous names, screaming at them, creating a heightened situation, the way that Karens do, and only Karens can do, of creating a massively stressful situation that shouldn't be, by the way. And thinking it's okay for them to take their hormonal nut jobs screaming out on everyone else. It has to stop. Watched a video by Asmongold a few months ago where he was saying, and he says it all the time, that Karens are one of the worst forces in society for just dragging society down. I'm paraphrasing, but pretty much that he was saying. Absolutely farcical that they've edited out the screeching and the swearing, and all that swearing was from who? God, rest in peace, the lady in the car and the other people that were there protesting ICE. They're the ones doing all that swearing, not the officers, trying to make sure that they're safe and watching in every direction while being screamed at by these maniacs. It was a matter of time before this happened when you look at it in that context, because it's been happening in Minnesota. Blocking the road with your car, etc. It's just been the norm.
Since we had to block out some of that video. So what you
didn't
just
have
saw,
to block it out.
I think this video will probably play once again, and I can kind of walk you through it. This is the part of the video where you see the aftermath. It appears that red vehicle that was shot at then rams or crashes into a car. So right now the officer is telling the person in that red vehicle to get out. There's lots of people yelling. That car then backs up and then drives past those officers. You heard those shots there.
Oh, and she paints it a certain way immediately, drives past those officers. Look, I'm okay if we decide that the officer did something wrong, then okay, but let's not skew it. Let's tell the absolute truth. And then if we decide the officer did something wrong, okay, that's fine. But let's not skew it. We did that before in Minnesota, and we skewed it. And by the way, I've got some guilt in that. I felt very similar. It's only once you calm down and you think about it rationally that then you can go, wait a minute, actually, there's more going on than that right there for the officers involved. And the previous history of arresting this same guy over and over again and him doing the same spiel over and over again, all of that has to be factored in. And the fact that this has been happening constantly in Minnesota has to be factored in. The fact that they can't check into certain hotels has to be factored in. The fact that they get threats daily has to be factored in. They have to cover up their identity, or they'll get online threats, or, you know, whatever the phrase is for doxed. You get doxed, and, you know, and you or your family will be in danger. It's a constant cauldron of fear that these officers are put in by a bunch of middle-class women that wouldn't actually want to fight a war if it was a genuine war. So they're skewing this a bit. She backs up at first because she's in reverse to get away from the cop that's about to open her door. So she's evading capture already. Then she ploughs ahead, even with the guy in front of the car, doesn't care. Because she expects, like all these types of people expect, that he will just move out her way and she will get what she wants. And I hate speaking ill of the dead, but that's how it comes across. That I'll do what I want and you will let it happen. There's a lot of that going around.
And it appears that person was struck in the head. Then that car loses control, crashes into that white car that you see there.
And what's
By the way, and their Monday morning quarterbacking it, I'm interrupting again. They don't know what she's going to do next. The police don't know what she's going to do next. What's about to happen. Right? So you can see she's just trying to drive past or drive away. No, they don't know any of that. They have no clue that that's the next thing that's going to happen. She's been acting outrageously erratically. She's blocking law enforcement officers from doing their job. What are they to expect is going to happen next? This one, they've got a bit more of this, but we'll tolerate a bit of this here, a Trump posting, because we're going to then see it from a different angle and see the same thing.
On the pavement, he was in front of that bumper at the time, but we never saw from any of our angles him hit the pavement. He goes on to say, is there more of the president's statement, or is this the full context? He goes on to say they are just trying to do a job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this, and these are his words, radical left movement of violence and hate. Again, that was President Trump's evaluation as he watched the video earlier.
And then we have the clip of the perspective from behind the vehicle as well that we want to show you. So you've seen the perspective from the front, and now we're going to show you the perspective from behind, from somebody who had a cell phone out at the scene when all of this.
I'm interrupting a statement from Christine Ohm there. I'll rewind it. That camera footage we're seeing that got given to Fox News Minneapolis, That's one of these shouty bystanders. There's another one over there. There's another one there. That are, Dave chose to go and film her dead in the car, by the way. I'll go back just to see the whole thing again for anybody that joins us. It's a tough one. On the face of it, you would easily say, yeah, okay. He managed to get his out the way of the car. He shouldn't have done anything else. But I do need to play devil's advocate to say he doesn't know what's going to happen next. They don't know if she's armed, and everyone's armed in the United States. You know, I'm being facetious, but they are. There's an unknown here. You don't know what she's going to do next. She was willing to do this, and she was willing to drive towards a law enforcement officer here. So, what is she going to do next? You don't know. You don't know. So,
We have deployed about 2,000.
Context here. Why don't we just let you watch this? But we're going to do this in a very sort of deliberate way.
Yeah.
Let people know that this is video we're showing for the first time. You're not going to see it a lot on our air because we want to make sure that when we're showing it, we're doing it with a purpose. So there's no audio here as well, and you're going to see this sort of play out. So just a warning to those who may not want to see this. You can see the vehicle.
same again, this no audio with a justification that there's swearing. Catch an actual grip. Now, I've seen it with the full audio previously. Now, my problem is, I'm like, where is that? How can I get that back up? Because it's important having the full context here. It's important to see it in full context. I don't think you can appreciate the situation without the full context. You know what I mean? So I'll hear out in a minute the rest of their article, their segment on it. Sorry, Care. But is it this one? No, that's the same one that we had. Let's see if they actually show it
ICE
with.
And so I knew when I accelerate forward, she started to reverse. She reversed a little bit so she could angle her wheels to, it's a one-way, so she started to accelerate forward, and then one of the ICE agents stepped in front of her and yelled, "Stop," and leaned over the front of the hood of her car and shot her in the face. It was about 3 or 4 shots.
That's a witness putting the best possible spin on it. It's a one-way, so she had to reverse a little and then drive away. None of it happens like that. That is the best possible spin. I don't want to put the best possible spin on it for either side. But here's what I do know. 1, 2, 3. These law enforcement officers, they have to be there. She doesn't. Neither does she. Neither does this one on the phone right now. They're all filming, screaming, taking pictures. None of them have to be there. They could be there without infringing on the police doing their jobs. They could be there without doing that. They can protest all they want. That'd be great. In fact, I favour that. I'm all for that. Go for that. But you can't do this, and it can turn into a deadly situation. And it did, and it's horrific and tragic. Let's put this one on then and see. I mean, let's see. Hopefully, at some point, one of them will actually just play it without deleting the sound.
This morning, Minneapolis was the site of an ICE officer-involved shooting. We've preliminary information that has been coming out know that allegedly the woman who was shot was a woman, according to Mike Tobin, who is there still on scene. Mike Tobin, if you're there, let's get the latest from you. Oh, okay. So we're going to bring it back to the couch as we talk about this. Harris, you were monitoring the tweets that were coming out from leadership there in Minneapolis, and it seemed that immediately upon learning of this ICE-involved shooting, we do know that all ICE agents are safe, but that leadership there was tweeting out about getting ICE out of Minneapolis, although Mike Walls allegedly has urged people to stay calm. What are your thoughts as this develops?
Well, leaving the politicians doing what they often do, Emily, I'll get to that in a second. But with this situation, just consider the backdrop here. You've got a state that's steeped in fraud. You've got federal agents on the ground arriving this week, taking a look at the $9 billion. And some have said that's a modest number. We'll see as the investigations, plural, shake out. We know that the U.S. Congress and the oversight chairman, James Comer, they're looking at this. They are bringing in people. So you've got that going on there. You also have a situation that Sandra just mentioned to me, too, where you've seen a lot of police officers leave. I mean, it's not a friendly place for cops. And because law enforcement isn't allowed to do its job. And so you've had a whole lot going on in the backdrop of this. And why is that important? All eyes on Minnesota right now. You have ICE agents on the ground trying to do what the president's goal is to do.
Let's bring an independent.
And that is to clean up illegal immigration, violent, worst of the worst, out of the country first. ICE centers, they're trying to protect those detention centers. And our ICE agents have been under threat. A whole lot going on. It is a concoction for anything to happen. So we've been watching this story without a lot of detail. But now take a look at the middle of your screen. This is what we heard early on, and it didn't really make sense, Emily.
Yeah.
So this was a shooting, but it was a ramming. Now we can see the remnants potentially of that with the white car and a vehicle behind it. We don't know all of the details or how that ended up, but we know that that's been a focal point as all of these vehicles now are lining the street. Residential area. Imagine what that feels like. You're looking outside, you've got people, law enforcement, you've got federal agents, everybody in your yards on that street. And now finally some details that a woman reportedly has been shot. We don't know conditions of people. We don't know any of that from the ground. But in the meanwhile, we have Makeup Jacob Frey of Minneapolis. I'm aware of the shooting involving ICE agent at 34th Street in Portland. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. He tweets us in the middle of all of this. We're demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. We stand rock solid with our immigrant and refugee communities. I don't know what he knows, but we're going to need to know a lot more information like the facts and not his opinion.
Now, we had a reporter on ground earlier, Mike Tobin, who talked to us about the allegations thus far. This ICE officer-involved shooting involved the person who was shot, a woman, and allegedly involved a ramming incident, which there on your screen you can sort of see. If it pulls out further, you'll see what looks like three vehicles that were sort of tangled together. And then you see there that group of people that, as Mike Tobin described it, sort of descended on the site of where it occurred. Now, there is tape keeping those people at bay. And he talked about sort of the knee-jerk reaction of these individuals that often do descend on where there is an ICE officer-involved situation. We see here now plenty of space in between those protesters or gatherers there and what looks like the scene of that shooting, or at least the ramming. John, your thoughts as we see this unfold before us?
Well, Emily, of course, we need to see more facts.
Yes.
But I can tell you the broader picture here is this is what's going to happen in sanctuary states like Minnesota or California or New York, where local officials, if they're not tolerating or at least encouraging resistance to the execution of federal law. No one doubts here that people here are in violation of federal immigration law, that ICE agents have the right under the Constitution to go and...
Look, he's right about that. In the United States, the news, we all know, is skewed right or left, depending on the station you watch. It's great. It's brilliant. But this was like 8 hours ago, so they're a wee bit behind the curve. They didn't have full details yet when they're saying this. But and you can see, the main thing about putting up was to see people had started gathering here. Let's see if they get a shot at it later in the video. But they're right about the Minneapolis mayor, but he's always like this. He's out there with knee-jerk reactions, and they go on about Trump with his knee-jerk reactions. Now, Nick Sauter is going to come up in this one. I've not seen the video, but I saw his face in the thumbnail, if you like. And he's going to give you some background on it. Now, he tried yesterday, a few days ago, to book a hotel room at the Hilton, or a Hilton affiliate in Minneapolis, as a DHS agent, as ICE agent essentially, right? Homeland Security agent. And he was refused. Now that's because that local affiliate of Hilton had decided they weren't going to house or accommodate any Homeland Security agents, which is pretty disgusting, to be honest. But they then, Hilton stepped in, yeah, you are. So they pretended to retract it, but then he went to check if you could. Nick Sauter, you might know him from going to the protests in Portland. And, yeah, he was still refused. So Hilton, the hotel chain, have now disenfranchised that hotel, and it's not part of the Hilton group anymore. But he's been in Minnesota a lot, where the protests there, etc., and the Somali frauds and all of that. So let's see what he's saying about it.
Journalist Nick Sauter, who's on the ground in Minneapolis. This video you're seeing now, Nick posted to X, showing a different angle of the incident today. Nick, thanks for being with us here today. I know you've been working hard. You've had these different videos that have been seen on social media. What are you seeing now on the ground?
Well, I'll tell you what, Will, the reason that I have to do this live shot from here instead of within the actual area where the confrontation is taking place right now is because there's a snow mound, and it's very difficult for people to figure out where I'm doing this live shot from, because Minneapolis police have pulled out, right? They will not save me. It's much like Portland. If I were to be attacked, they'd probably arrest me instead. And that's a scary thought. It's like, it feels like anarchy.
And there you go. And any time there is a sort of protest, anarchy situation, Democrats, I hate to have to slag them all the time, but Democrats in places like Minnesota, and it's happened in Minnesota before, because they don't want the optics of their police arresting mostly peaceful protesters, what they do is they just pull the police out. They just pull the police out and let them run rampage. They burnt half of Minneapolis down during the BLM stuff. It's just disgusting. All of those people should be arrested and made to pay for the damage they caused. Simple as that. You've got to be hard line on this sort of thing. You can protest, but you don't get to attack other people or damage their property. Get a grip of yourself.
A little bit, and it's still early in the day. It's like 3:26 in the afternoon. We just got word that a protest is being planned at the federal building, and that's going to be taking place after dark. That's when things really, really get bad in areas like this. That's when we saw in like 2020 all of this stuff, like the Summer of Love. After George Floyd, it was the same mayor and the same actions that were being taken, where they take the police out of the area and people are allowed to run the streets wild. I actually couldn't even get to the place where I wanted to do this hit from because a lot of these anarchists now have the roads blocked and police are nowhere to be found. It's devolving, man.
So to be clear, Nick, you're there, you're in Minneapolis, you're in St. Paul area. There's no police. I take it from you. I hear you clearly. There's no police in the area. But what about the number of protesters? Has that continued to mount? We saw live video of protesters moving from the site of the incident and marching somewhere in some direction on the street. Has that gained momentum?
Yeah, they're still marching north. That's what's going on, and eventually. It got to the point where I had been recognized and was being physically harassed, so I had to pull out of the area, and that's really sad to say. It wasn't happening as much earlier then because there were police around. Now, keep in mind, though, these people still don't have very much respect for police, although you see that the police that will back away when they start getting pushback from these leftist agitators that are out there, but the mayor is the one giving those orders, telling them to bail out and leave. So a lot of these police officers want to be able to enforce the law and keep the people in all the. This is a residential area. These people feel very unsafe down here right now because it feels like anarchy.
Oh, I have to wonder how the homeowners feel after seeing what happened to the storefronts and businesses of Minnesota just 6 years ago, less than 6 years ago, how those homeowners in that
And
area
we're only
feel.
blocks away from where the George Floyd situation happened, where if you still go there nowadays, the buildings are still charred. There's still, I mean, it still looks like total destruction, just like it did back then. It's never recovered. And people are worried that that's going to happen again. And all signs point to them wanting it to happen again. Will, they want this to devolve even more. They want, you have Tim Walz on TV alluding to this being a murder, as well as the mayor with his inflammatory rhetoric on TV. Why? Because there is no better way for them to distract from the billions and billions of dollars worth of fraud that we've been here on the ground uncovering over the past 2 weeks. It's the best way for Tim Walz to finally be able to talk about something else and bury it.
And one of those people that's the center of that fraud story in
The crazy thing is, could you imagine if off the back of this, Tim Walz get back in the race? He just said he's not going to run for re-election. But can you imagine when, that's it, I'm running for re-election off the back of this? He's probably considering it, by the way, just so you know.
Minnesota is Attorney General Keith Ellison, and he's now put out a statement on this ICE incident. It reads as follows: for weeks, we watched the Trump administration deliberately brutalize our communities, and now an ICE agent has fatally shot one of our neighbors. The president is deliberately weaponizing the federal government against the people of Minnesota to inflict pain and instill terror.
He's using deliberately twice there as well. Keith Ellison is a proven wife beater, by the way. Just saying, just putting that out there. In what way has Trump used the federal government to brutalise Minnesota exactly? The words they use are astounding, and they cause outrageous justifications for outrageous violence. They just do. It is absolutely insane. But and I used outrageous twice just to hammer home my point. The way he's using the certain words to hammer home the point he's trying to make. This guy's gross. I can't even be bothered with that. Let's just fast forward a wee bit. Because, by the way, there's something going on. Just from a gossip point of view, let's just put this up. This is separate, entirely separate, unrelated matter, right? But right now in Salt Lake City, and it's local news, I've got a webcam feed up on Redwood Road, and apparently from their chat in this, this is KSL News Utah, but apparently from their chat, this is near the LDS church. Something's going on there. Look at the amount of police officers here. But this is breaking right now, but we don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. Even in the chat, nobody knows what's happening. But maybe it's a police parade. I don't know. Someone's suggesting a ICE protest turned violent in Utah. Not a chance. If anything, to be cheering on ICE. There's no sound with it. But I won't keep an eye on that. Something's happening there. But this video will give you a bit of context. This is right just down the street from where the shooting happens, or part of the same group, if you like. This is what was happening to the ICE vehicles.
I understand that the situation is escalating at the scene now that police have taken down the barriers. Again, our understanding is there's no ICE agents there. This would be local law enforcement still on the scene.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Julie. I just wanted to know if this was happening as we speak or not. Okay, so this is not what we've been seeing. This is a complete escalation right now. You're seeing the snowballs, the ice balls. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Ice balls and snowballs are not some innocent play fighting thing. That's like what...
No, he's right about that. But this is the kind of thing we've been seeing, right? This is the reality of what's happening. When politicians are acting like it's okay for these people to behave this way, they will behave that way. And then if they're punished for it, they'll act like they're innocent victims. And that lies at the door of media and of politicians that act like you have to do it, you have to get out there, get in their faces. What do you mean by get in their faces? Be specific what you mean, because people are taking their cue from you, and this is the kind of nonsense that's happening. A woman's fucking dead because of the rhetoric that comes out of the mouths of politicians and people in the media. Yeah, I don't blame her, I blame them. They've radicalised her into not caring about her own community, not caring about her own fellow citizens, but caring about people she doesn't even know, and people that are committing fraud against them by even just being there. It is absolutely disgusting. And some of the people, some of the arrests that have been made on some of the illegal migrants, you know, I know it's not all, but with the kind of crimes that people have committed, disgusting stuff, and they're being defended by these people here. And whose interests are they serving? Not their own, that's for sure. There's people get a case to answer, and, you know, if there's murder charges need to be brought, they should be against the people in the media and the people in politics that say the incendiary things. I'm on YouTube, and I have to be extremely careful how I speak or what I say. There's laws in every country against you radicalising anyone, or not that I would, I'm not that kind of guy, you've met me, how many times we've done these streams, but you have to be very careful what you say in case it's misconstrued as a call to violence or anything like that. Apparently that doesn't go for people in the mainstream media or politicians. I'd say what they want, and they can always, other people will justify it for them. They meant it this way, they didn't mean it that way. Get a grip. No, this has to stop. Look what you're doing to people. Maxine Waters out of Los Angeles, the stuff she's got away with saying for years is outrageous. Like saying about Republican politicians that they shouldn't even be able to go to a restaurant without you harassing them. She should be in prison for the things she's said. It's absolutely disgusting. Get a grip. There's way too much, way beyond the line. And you're causing these situations. And they only start caring about it when it comes back to their door. It's like all those people with the BLM stuff that were backing it. Some major people in entertainment in the black community. But then when the protests were getting too close to their neighbourhood where they actually lived, they were like, oh, maybe we need to turn down the temperature and all of that. And you're like, right, okay, yeah, I get you. Absolute joke. Complete farce, all of them.
What caused the Boston Massacre? Like, this is violence, right? You're seeing them chase officers out of the way. They are now walking/running away from the intersection as we speak. It appears that the growing crowd is pushing law enforcement out of the way, and they are leaving.
Trying to leave the scene. You know, it's important to reiterate that Chief Brian O'Hara has said many times they are not involved in ICE operations. Our local law enforcement is simply there in case there is danger to the public. In other words, the crowd starts to get rowdy. There starts to be an escalation between protesters and ICE officers. So they're there they are there only for crowd control. They are never there to assist ICE agents in their operation. So emotions are very high, though, today, no doubt.
Well, it's so important. If they're leaving right now and that scene is done, if that crime tape is no longer exists, and the cars that were there, the ones that were shot, still are there, people are running it over, all that evidence is gone now. It's tainted.
We have no idea what is happening at that. You know, I don't know where those cars are in relation to where this video or this live picture is. You know, and we had said earlier there had been a lot of chanting, and there had been very, very little escalation going on in the crowd, except between a couple different people in the crowd. It hadn't been directed to law enforcement until this moment. And although you are not allowed to throw obstacles, no matter what they are, at officers, you know, our hope is that this is as violent, if that's too strong a word, that it gets today, that people can remain peaceful and certainly exercise their First Amendment rights. But
well, this is interesting, Julie, too, because there's officers behind the crowd. You see how there's like 100 or 200, and there's police cars in front and behind, almost as if they're giving them space. Or they're being chased out, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll continue watching this as the day goes on. And again, we did talk earlier with a use of force expert who emphasized how important it is to wait for all the facts to come out, and that he has a lot of experience in different cases across the country, and how often the narrative can change as more and more video and witness testimony is unveiled. I think we've already seen that on social media this morning. The first video that came out showed one angle. Videos that have come out subsequently show different angles and give us more information. And so...
What the hell is that? What is FTP? Don't even know. Mexican flag, etc. No, not acceptable. All garbage. Has to stop. Just absolute nonsense. It's the United States of America. Get yourself an American flag. Wave a Mexican one, go wave it in Mexico. This has to stop. There's another Mexican flag. I don't know what FTP means, but it can go and take a fuck to itself. It has to stop. Someone's dead on their side, if you like, because of this kind of nonsense. No, you're throwing a tantrum because you want it to be acceptable for you to break the laws of another country so you can have whatever you want. No, that's selfish and ridiculous. And the only reason they're acting like this is because they're being given by the police a clear green light to go ahead and do this. Throw snowballs, ice balls, by the way, like they say, like the guy said, at the ICE agents. No, you might as well throw a brick at them. Get a grip.
No one knows exactly what went down at this moment. We do know a woman was shot and killed. It's a tragedy. We know tensions are high, and they have been. This operation in Minneapolis of ICE agents was the largest ever under Trump. They had sent 2,000 agents here, including about 600 Homeland Security investigators, in light of all the fraud tied to Medicaid that has been uncovered here in Minnesota. So already the situation was fraught politically and obviously emotionally as well. And now here today, what has happened is what we feared would happen, that this would escalate into a situation in which shots were fired, and tragically this morning a woman has lost her life. We are anticipating a press conference at any moment from Governor Tim Walz. We're joined by Danny Spiewak as well, our chief political reporter. Let's keep this live picture up as we talk to Danny and wait for that press conference. But Danny, I thought you made such a good point that in light of the governor's own press conference yesterday, in which he was more defensive and emotional than we've seen him in a long time, hard to know what to expect out of this press conference today, but we certainly know that there will be a lot of acrimony directed toward the president and his administration, or certainly it's what we anticipate.
And one thing that strikes me just watching this all unfold, it's eerie that it's in, very similar neighborhood to the killing of George Floyd and that murder in 2020, of course, in the Powderhorn neighborhood, South Minneapolis. It strikes me that the dynamics are so different. That was a situation where you had Minneapolis police and, anger from the community toward the city's police department and the city of Minneapolis. In this case, you have an anger from people that are on scene towards a federal government with support from the city and I'm guessing, when Governor Walz talks, the state government. And so it's a different dynamic. The parallels will be drawn geographically. Obviously there's so much context around that here in Minneapolis, but
they do not have the support of local law enforcement.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's a different dynamic because you were talking about, criticism of actions by a local department. This is now a federal situation. The dynamics are much different in terms of the interactions between the federal, state, local governments, if that makes any sense.
Yes,
absolutely. That's what strikes me watching this right now.
Yeah, we had already heard the governor talking yesterday about how he felt that the president was attacking Minnesota and that he didn't have our best interests at heart. Of course, very political. We know that people feel very strongly the opposite way as well. But we all knew that the ICE operations here, whether you think they're merited or you don't, there's no doubt that tensions and emotions were rising every time they showed up somewhere to make an arrest. There would be large groups of people, and we had seen interactions between the crowds and ICE agents as well. This was all, this surge, we're to understand from DHS and Secretary Noem, was because of the fraud that had been perpetrated throughout the state in Medicaid, largely from the Somali community. And it's interesting to note that they've said that they've arrested 1,300 people, but it's difficult for us to figure out if that is A, an accurate number, B, who these people are. They've said it would be the worst of the worst, but it's hard for us to confirm that, even when they give us names and they give us a criminal record. But that's going to be important context before the governor speaks. This is what it stems from, this particular surge in ICE agents. They're saying at the federal level they're coming here because of all the fraud in the Medicaid system, which is closely tied to many in the Somali community. And that set the stage for what we are seeing today as far as why they were coming specifically to Minneapolis in the last 2 days.
But it's very difficult because we don't know what the purpose of today's operation was.
Correct.
And so we don't know why they were in that area.
The purpose of today's operation was probably to arrest someone that had been in the United States illegally. I'm guessing there's a high chance of that, seeing as that's what they do. She said there, we can't confirm, even if they give us criminal records, if it's accurate or not. She's saying don't believe the federal government. But then she'll say, if Biden was in office, she'd say, believe the federal government. It's farcical. Have it one way or the other. You can't flip back and forward. The reality is, ICE are saying they're coming to arrest the worst of the worst. And that's what they're doing. And if they weren't, how come the Democrats have only been able to come up with one case where they think the person should still be in the United States? That young father from, where is he from again? Is it Massachusetts or something like that? That was going around beating up women, etc. And that's the case they hang everything on. The rest of them, they're getting chucked out, and I'm here for it, honestly. I want to at least, I'd like to try and get an idea properly of how it happened. Again, we saw how it happened, but with this is very reminiscent, with the sound on again. I don't even know where it was now. This is very reminiscent of the George Floyd situation, in that people are behaving hysterically when we should be having an honest debate about it. But there's going to be a lot of people over the next few days being very disingenuous about this. It's just, and I was going to do a bit of a looking at just the comments, even this video, and you can see in here, snowballs are not violence, etc. If you've ever been hit with an ice ball in the head, you know that is violence, especially when it's someone with high adrenaline, having to watch in every direction, just trying to do their job. Is this buffoon reporter calling snowballs lethal weapons? By the way, this is because this audience, usually for Care 11 out of Minnesota, they're used to the news being skewed in only one way, in their direction, so that they can feel better about the world. It doesn't. You don't report the news, you report them a sanitised version. Hence, anything that made the victim, if you like, of the shooting look bad is taken out. The people screaming obscenities at the police officers on the sidelines, they're like, oh well, you'll hear the gunshots, but we don't want all that swearing in it. They sanitised it for this audience so that they can feel better and have a wee hug from the news. Let's see this. CNN spinning a different narrative. Some other outlets are removing audio from the video. So did this one. I've seen 2 alternative videos already. This is media manipulation. This person says everything's media manipulation, but this station spun it that way. I watched the video on there and they justified why they were taking out the sound. I'll try one more time to see. Let's try this CBS
Good evening.
one.
Tonight we're on the campus of Southern Methodist University
and see if they show it with the sound in. And viewer discretion again, but try and if there is swearing in it. Please try and cope.
We're going to have more on the North Texas boom that just won't stop. But all the news tonight is much farther to the north. A deadly incident in Nicole. Good evening.
Good evening, Tony. Behind me, what started as an immigration operation.
Did he go for special training to do news voice? Good evening. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely farcical, like, honest to God. But again, we can see it again, but not with the actual sound yet again.
Witness video shows a red SUV surrounded by ICE agents in South Minneapolis.
It's not surrounded by ICE agents, CBS. Stop telling lies. She decided to forcefully block ICE agents, and we've seen this dozens of times in Minneapolis already, in the snow, in recent weeks. And by the way, for the last month or so, there's been a lot of that going on, and ranting at them and hammering their windows and throwing stuff. It's not a one-off incident. This has been going on. This has been happening, and it has led to this. The mayor in Minneapolis, just out of wanting to look good and keep his job, and the governor, and Ilhan Omar, and people like her, other Congress members in Minneapolis, they, in reality, you don't agree with the law, fine, you don't agree with the law, but if there's no law, then you're not the mayor, you're not the governor, you're not a Congress member. Yeah, so you have to respect the law more than anyone if you're in those positions. So you shouldn't be encouraging people to be doing anything like this at all, any of the time. You want to change the law, you're in a better position to do it than anyone. Yeah, actually put forward legislation to change those laws. If it gets voted down, it gets voted down. You've done your bit. That's democracy, and we all get up tomorrow and we try again. But what you don't do is encourage people to defy the law, or else it might as well be medieval times, and we'll cut about with big swords hacking at each other until majority wins.
Leaving eyewitnesses in shock.
It was a red truck and nothing but the airbags and full of blood.
Quickly responding, Minneapolis police say they found 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good with gunshot wounds to the head.
Life-saving measures were performed at the scene, including CPR.
Jesus wept. Did you see the did you see what the I can't even cope. And I hate to be laughing at with this sort of thing. Did you see what the sign language person just did as part of the sign language? I need to go back and let's get a look at that.
The head.
Life-saving measures were performed at the scene, including CPR. The woman was transported CPR. The woman was transported, including CPR. The woman was saving measures were performed at the scene.
I mean, and there you have it. That's as good a place to leave it as any. And this is where where society is, isn't it? It's just pure insanity of the reactions of this are pure insanity. A lady's dead, and an officer's having to live with having killed her. And those two people, my sympathies and thoughts are with both of them. In all honesty, the rest are trying to make this about something it isn't. And this guy here, that's the mayor. That's the mayor in Minneapolis. And his immediate reaction was, get ICE out of our city. Should they take all federal funding out of your city as well then? Should everything federal be moved from your city? All the federal jobs that are in your city, should they be moved? He's absolutely talking out of his ass. He knows exactly what he's doing, but he doesn't want the consequences of everything. Make Minneapolis its own independent country of the United States and see how it does then. Yeah? Sober up, you absolute joke. The guy's a clown, and that lady's murder is bang at his doorstep with a rhetoric he's been pulling out for months. It's not good enough. It's absolutely not good enough. regardless of whether it's a justified killing or not, the lady's been murdered. Play around with terminologies all you want. She's been killed by law enforcement. Whether they're justified or not, you can make your own decision. Our poll says 50% no and 50% say I don't know. My opinion is he was probably justified. Why was he justified? Because they're in an insane situation with people screaming at them all the time and someone's driving their car at you. And the slippery ice and all of that, the whole, you have to factor everything in to the whole situation. And the idiots screaming at the sidelines, it's insane. And again, she's just blocking the road when they're trying to do their job. It's horrible. I wish she hadn't been killed. It's a tragedy, but people trying to skew it as something else. These officers, for example, they want to be super careful how they portray this. Their jobs are difficult enough, especially in Minnesota, especially after BLM. You want to make your job even harder? Have this turn out to not be a justified killing, and then it'll be absolutely impossible. With the changes they'll then make to police Minnesota will be outrageously impossible. You think the Somali community fraud is bad now? Wait until then. The whole thing's a farce. And it's not just Somalis committing fraud in Minnesota, but I can't be bothered with disingenuous arguments where I have to qualify that. A lot of them are, and a lot of idiots are protesting ICE. And I wonder if that lady, 37-year-old white woman, middle class, would have been there at all if it wasn't for this guy's rhetoric. If this guy had said, look, if you don't agree with what ICE are doing, I'm with you. Because he doesn't agree. He's been very clear on that. He could be saying, I'm with you. I don't agree either. But please don't infringe on them doing their duties. Don't try to prevent them from going about their job. Protest all you want, but don't block roads. Don't do any of that, because it will escalate the situation. But he's not done that, has he? No. He's not been a grown-up and done that, which if you're going to be the mayor of a major city, you should at least take the trouble of being a responsible adult. But no, he's not done that at all. No, instead, he's been grandstanding, just like he's been today. And now he'll have a whole host of Hollywood celebrities encouraging him to grandstand even more. And deep down at night when he goes to bed, he knows he's grandstanding and he knows he's full of shit. He needs to get a grip of himself. If you don't rein in people behaving like this and have open debate and all you live in is an echo chamber, this is the result. This is what happens. You can't have it at all. Monologue over, rant over. I hope her family's okay. I hope the officer involved and his family's okay. And that's all you can hope for off the back of this situation. Minnesota needs to sort itself out. And if they were doing, by the way, that's another fact here. If Minnesota were following federal law in the first place and not pulling this sanctuary crap, none of this would have happened. You're playing silly games like children with grown-up stuff. And this is the end result of it. You put other people ahead of your own citizens, and this is the end result of that. 2 of your own citizens' lives are now irrevocably ruined. One's dead and one will have to hide now. And we know it. That's just the reality. If this was a Democrat administration in the White House, this person would be going to prison for the rest of their lives. Unjustifiably so, in my opinion. But it's just my opinion. If I had been him in that situation, would I have done it differently? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say. I don't think it's fair to try and make that claim. People watch too many action movies and they think, oh, you just do this or you just do that. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you've ever been in a fight or hit in the face or anything, you have to think in that second what you're going to do next. And you might go too far. But your automatic defences are kicking in and you have to fight against them. That's really difficult in that situation. Any of us could be in that situation and your first priority ends up your own safety. And when it comes down to that, all bets are off, let's be honest. I hope everyone stays safe. Let sleeping dogs lie for a couple of days. Don't be going out in the streets ranting and raving or shouting if anybody's actually listening to me. If you feel that this wasn't justified. If you feel that it was justified, it's okay to say that. But again, don't be vitriolic about it and don't be throwing it in people's faces that are going to be upset and going to feel like it's a rough time. So just go easy on each other. God, we didn't last long after Christmas before it got violent again, did we? Okay. Again, no clue what's going on in Utah, just to end on. It is massive police presence, but I'm not finding anything around the media. I'm just reading their chat just for a second here. Someone's saying something about 1 female, 2 males have been killed at IMC. I don't know what that means. So there's been some sort of shooting. I'm assuming a shooting, let's be honest. Just as I was about to go, but we're not getting any coverage of it anywhere else other than this local Utah station who aren't even saying anything about it. They've just got a webcam image up of that street and it's more police than I ever saw in Utah. But they're it's not making the news today in the rest of America because the news is being dominated right now by well, what's happened in Minnesota. So 1 person dead is more newsworthy than 3 people dead because of the situation. That's your reality today, I'm afraid. Alright, I'll be back later if this heats up. I'm going to go and read everything about it so that when we talk again, I'll have all of the background and all that. Thanks for tuning in. Eli, specifically, thank you for commenting and I'll see you again, my friend. It was great to actually see you live once again, pal. And I'll see you again. Stay safe down there. Stay safe in Minnesota. Stay safe in Salt Lake City and all over the world. Stay